I'm going to give you manufacturers some gold right here. Okay? I'm going to give you some gold, and you guys should definitely listen. You know what makes this now a $5,000 car and the Supra a $220,000 car? You want to know what? One part. One singular part. Your connecting rod. If you would have put a good connecting rod in here, that we could have made 500 horsepower, okay, on that. Not 380 when the connecting rod comes out, or 400 where the connecting rod comes out of the motor and destroys the motor. But if you guys literally made a good connecting rod in this motor, this car right here would be worth 4 times, 5 times the value, because now some kid can now buy this car for $15,000, put a bolt-on turbo kit on it, make 500 horsepower, and be a hero without having to touch the motor. Okay? Without having to touch that motor, because once you go into that motor, it's time and money. How much so? How much so, you ask, that the young people today are more willing to buy a BMW M Series, pay $35,000 more than the Nissans that are out there, just so that they can have the potential to make 800 or 900 horsepower and never open up the motor. You're not going to do that on a VR30. I love Nissan. I love them. I love the VR30 platform. Love them. Okay? You know, but every manufacturer, you know, that makes that mistake pays for it, because the car doesn't become an iconic car. Why did the Supra become an iconic car? Really simple. If you pulled that motor apart and you looked at a factory Supra connecting rod, it looks like a big block Chevy rod. Okay? It's about the same width, girth. It's not that far off. Well, you can take a 2J, as you know, and make 600 horsepower on a junkyard motor.
Yeah.
That's why it's iconic, because it can be built, it can be run, it can be raced. Everybody knows it, so everybody wants it. And that's why the demand for that Supra, on top of, you know, the movies and the racers and everything else.
A lot of factors.
But the platform, the 2JZ platform, why it's so widely used is because it has a really strong connecting rod. One part separates everything. Like, if this had a good connecting rod on it, I'd be retired. Because when these cars first came out, I was doing a Jim Wolf turbo kit every week. Every single week for 2 years, I did a Jim Wolf turbo. You can call Colleen at Jim Wolf. We were overnighting the turbo kits. That's how fast we were getting them. Okay, it was an incredible number. Only $150 to actually overnight a turbo kit back in the day. So we would just overnight the turbo kit.
Yeah.
Every week we had one guy come in for almost 2 years straight. Then when the car started to get like, you know, 35 and 40,000 miles, and they were making like 400 horsepower, boom, car after car we started seeing come back. You know, break the rod, break the rod, break the rod. After that, we got to build motors. And now you build a motor. You build a motor for a car, okay? The time, the money, the effort, you know, it takes quite a few months to really get a car into a shop, pull the motor, send it to the machine shop, send the heads out, you know, port the heads, you know, get the heads back. If you do your own porting, spend a week at the porting bench, you know, get it back online to where it's in the same, in the same lineup as the rest of your work, you know, get it there, and then spend, 2 weeks putting it together, and then, 3 weeks over at the monster side, putting the motor in, putting the fuel system in, putting the coolant system in, putting the turbo kit on. It takes time and money. Whereas the Supra, just turn up the boost, put a, Bosch fuel pump back in the day, and you were making 600 horsepower. You were the king. You were the king. You weren't walking around with 600 horsepower. You were the king. But I think that's where a lot of manufacturers make a mistake of not putting a good rod in there. And if they did, these cars would, again, most of these manufacturers, they're not making money selling cars. They're selling parts, so they're not looking to put the best parts in there. But if you're really building a sports car, you want to make that sports car an iconic car.